You and your family to make an appointment today for an eye exam. Even though the name has changed, we are still providing the same family-friendly eye care as Dr. Z. We are located at 8 North Main Street in Jewett City. You can also find Griswold Eye Care on Facebook and send us a message. Don't forget that eye exams correlate to your whole body health too. It's not just new glasses and contacts. So come see me, Dr. Katina Simmons, at the all-new Griswold Eye Care, formerly Dr. Zuckerbrand's. Hope to see you soon.
Family owned and operated. That's something you don't hear too often anymore. Highway Campers of Plainfield is now 3 generations in and going strong. If you're looking to upgrade or get your first RV, contact the family that knows RVs, Highway Campers. They'll walk you through the process of finding the right RV for you and can even finance it for you. Visit www.highwaycampers.com and find your home on wheels. After all, home is where you park it. Highway Campers is a proud supporter of Griswold Youth Football.
Did you know that Allstate Insurance, the Trahan agency, has 2 offices now, Plainfield and East Lyme? And that's good news for you, since Kevin Trahan has been in the insurance business for well over a quarter of a century. Plus, he's easy to find. Just search in any browser, Kevin Trahan, Allstate Insurance, and when you get to his Facebook page, you'll find tons of helpful information on questions you may not even have thought to ask. Allstate Insurance, Trahan Agency, Plainfield and East Lyme, proud sponsor of Griswold Youth Football.
You see the signs everywhere. No alcohol if under 21. No tobacco under 21. No vaping supplies under 21. It's 21 for a reason.
Youth that use alcohol are more likely to engage in other risky behaviors, such as gambling. Learn the warning signs and how to talk to your children about addiction.
It's 21 for a reason. Brought to you by CIRAC and funded in partnership with SAMHSA. Find out more at CIRACCT.org.
Hi, Miranda Mahoney here from Griswold Pride, your local drug prevention coalition. So, marijuana, now legal in Connecticut, but there are some things you really should know. It's only legal for people 21 and older. And always, always secure your cannabis products like edibles, vape pens, dabs, and of course marijuana in a locking storage container and keep it out of sight and of reach of kids. Kids don't know the difference between a THC edible gummy and a candy gummy you might buy at a store. There's many resources available at griswoldpride.org or our Facebook and Instagram pages. And parents, you are your child's greatest influence. Talk early, talk often about the risks of substance use on their developing brains. Check out griswoldpride.org. griswoldpride.org. griswoldpride.org.
April is Stress Awareness Month. Learning to cope with our stress and finding healthy ways to deal with these situations can go a long way in living a healthy and positive life. We all experience stress, yet we may experience it in very different ways. Because of this, there's no single definition for stress, but the most common explanation is a physical, mental, or emotional strain or tension. So recognize it when you need help. The following has been brought to you by Griswold Health and Safety.
Your community radio.
Live from Main Street.
Don't change anything. I love your show just the way it is.
Mike Minarski and Paul Lash in the morning. And 80s all day and night. Your community radio.
SNSN.
Your community radio.
Live from Main Street.
Mike Minarski and Paul Lash in the morning and 80s all day and night.
SNSN.
Like they always say things that aren't stupid usually. And then they are stupid. It's funny.
All right, good morning, everybody. Friday morning. It's about 15 minutes after 8. Chris is here. Paul's here. Jim Barney's even here. And of course, if you look deep into the camera, here's Senator Heather Summers. Good morning. First, Paul's got the weather forecast.
Okay, here we go.
It's going to be wet.
No. Anyway, right now the temperature downtown Jewett City is 52 degrees. Be a steady rain this morning. Showers continue through the afternoon. Highs will be somewhere around 54 degrees. But tonight, some clouds this evening, give away to mostly clear skies overnight. Lows will be somewhere around 32. Be a Saturday, it's going to be partly cloudy during the day. Highs somewhere around 54 degrees. And of course, for Saturday night, partly cloudy. Skies will be low. Skies will be cloudy. Temperatures will be 35 degrees. And that's your weather for SNSN on this Friday. On this first day, April Fool's Day, 0401. 2022.
All right, thank you, Paul. And the whole reason why Heather Summers is here today is we invited her here because today is the day that we shut down SNSN. So, once and for all. So
all over. It's done.
So that's it.
Nothing left but the crying.
That's it. Running it down.
I miss you, man.
So we're gonna. What are you laughing for? 'Cause I didn't tell you.
No, that's all right.
Yeah,
It's okay.
the way it is. Be running it out of the basement now.
It's like when mommy and daddy get a divorce.
Are you guys kidding?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. But Victoria says, "Good morning, Heather."
Good morning.
By the way, April Fools.
Oh, April. I'm like,
She didn't say good morning.
well, now I'm like, well, she was awfully eager. I wanted to come in to say hi because it's been crazy in the legislative session. And I had some good news that you probably already know, but
Hit me.
okay. Not really. This is not Will Smith, right?
Whoa, she went there.
Okay. So Griswold has a new senior center that they have been trying to complete, and we have had I've had a bonding request in with the state. We've been pushing and pushing because we know that you all need some state help to finish it and to make sure that it is open and fully fit out. It's been a long process. I worked on it with the building committee, with the former selectmen, with the head of the senior center, and we all have been constantly advocating for it. And guess what? Yesterday it passed.
Sweet.
So Griswold will be getting $1.2 million to finish the senior
Nice.
center. So I'm really excited about that. And
Wow.
it was third on the agenda. We kept hearing that we were going to get it. We're lobbying, talking to the governor's office, talking about how important it is, because that senior center will be able to help veterans. It'll have a clinic. There's a lot of really great things that it does. And it helps people even outside of Griswold. And we kept saying, then they kept canceling the bonding meeting. And finally they had a bonding meeting. I thought it was going to be on April 1st too. I was a little worried about that. It was yesterday. And I just want to say congratulations to Griswold and to everybody who helped advocate for that, and to the seniors. I'm sure they'll be very excited to make sure that new facility is opened up.
I'm officially eligible
I know.
for the
I can join the senior
now,
center.
too. Yeah.
So
Well, thanks for fighting for us.
Absolutely.
So
it's
that's good news for the town. That means
it's great news for the town.
because that original $700,000 now is not coming out of the town money, right?
It will come from 1.2 you'll be getting from the state.
So they won't have to use that money.
Right. And the nice thing about the bonding is that it was the language is general. It talks about as it's, for the impact from COVID. So it really can be dispersed as required.
that's
So I'm very excited. I want to thank the governor for putting it on the agenda. It's his decision as to what gets on. It's our job to advocate to make it get on. So that was part of our budget that we passed last year. And it's a complicated process. You can have money in the budget, but then you have to get it actually allocated. That's the hard part. So so I'm very excited. I'm excited for Griswold, and everyone, did a great job trying to advocate. So thank you. That was my exciting news.
That is awesome.
You got many accolades from the building committee last night at our meeting.
I didn't know you were on a building committee.
Jim, why don't you come over because because people can't hear you off to the side.
Well, I have to tell you, I was told in advance, but I couldn't. I was sworn to double secrecy, so I couldn't. It was like I could not say anything, and all I could say was, I think it's going to be okay. That's all I could say. And you don't want to jinx it because God forbid you say something and then it doesn't actually go through. So were they happy?
Oh yeah, they were happy. Let me tell you.
Good. Yeah. Was Rob happy?
Oh yeah.
Rob
Perrette.
Yes.
Yeah. Rob,
yeah.
Everybody there.
I kept saying, you can't give up. You got to keep going. No negativity. We got to keep it going. We got to keep pushing. So I'm glad. How many people are on your building committee?
Well, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They all signed letters to the governor, expressing the detail on how important this is. And you guys did a great job advocating. And I'm really excited for you.
If it hadn't been for you.
Without me wearing them down.
Yeah.
Every time. I'm like that, nah. Every time we go down the hall, we know Griswold Senior Center. I'm like, okay, good.
First it's a gun range, now it's a senior center. What the hell?
Heather, stop. But
a new location for SNSN.
We're going to be combining the gun range with the senior center. Only the seniors will have guns.
As a matter of fact, Annie Oakley will actually be there.
That's right.
Well, actually, that you speak about that, I have to. We were in a public health committee meeting, and there is a focus on gun violence,
And in public health, I argued that if this is going to be a initiative, it really, for me, needs to be violence, not just gun violence, because if you look at the rankings of the different categories of violence, which sounds kind of strange, but blunt instrument, blah blah blah, gun violence is down on the list.
It's in the noise.
Right. The number one is really blunt force trauma. And so my argument was, if this is going to be a public health initiative, it should be broad. It should be an initiative on violence and what we can do about violence. Gun violence has a location there, but it shouldn't be the only priority where all the funding is going just for gun violence. And I used an example of the fact that I represent some towns where there are more guns than people, where people have been brought up with firearms, they know how to use them, and that there is not an issue with gun violence. There's an issue with other types of violence.
Would Griswold be one of those towns where there's more guns than people?
I'm not sure if Griswold falls into that
Well, the
category.
United States
It's not
has
close.
more
But-
guns than people.
Yeah.
I do represent some of those towns, and they don't have gun violence. All the kids are like they're better with firearms than anybody that I know, because they've been brought up with them. They hunt and they respect the firearms. But we have other types of violence, and I did talk about the Griswold murders and the fact that there's somebody from Hartford coming from an epicenter of gun violence, but came to Griswold, didn't use a gun, but used something else.
We're talking about the Kenwood murders.
Yes,
Are we
to murder 3 people. So my town would not be eligible for any of this funding under a gun violence initiative, because that's not what we have here, and therefore all that money is going to go to the cities. So if we had a broader conversation about violence in general, then all towns, small, rural, would be able to access funds for initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that failed, like something in church. So it's funny. It's not funny, but there's a very different perspective on guns in the cities, and I do think that there's a lot of trauma in the cities. We heard from a lot of doctors that deal with children that have been shot, children that have seen gun violence in the cities. But again, and I'm sensitive to that, but I have to represent our district, which has different needs. And it's very frustrating at times to see, once again, everything going to the cities. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's such a joy when something comes to you all, when we can get some bonding money for something that, our rural or especially Eastern Connecticut towns actually get something for their tax dollars that they put in. So lots of stuff going on in the legislature this year, huge bills where it's really tough because there could be some great initiatives, but then they slap something in there that's horrible. So do you vote for it? Do you vote against it?
Right.
You try to amend it. So huge, we call them aircraft carrier bills that you have to, some of them are like 89 pages long. You really have to look at what's in there. And I have some really great mental health, I think, initiatives. But then they'll put something in there that I'm like, I can't live with that. I can't vote for that. So it's hard when you have your great bill and then they put something in it. So you can't even vote for your own bill sometimes.
Well,
so
I mean, we've had some crime really in the last week and a half or so.
I saw the state police, right?
Oh, they've been all over the place as far as the mobile station down here. I don't know if you can really
you had a
call
robbery, right?
No,
or what was the one where the state police caught them when they were it was in Jewett City, car theft, right?
The carjacking, that was
okay. Now,
2 nights ago.
Depending on how old they are,
18,
they will be let out tomorrow probably, because
At 18?
the Democrats, you're a juvenile in Connecticut till you're like 26.
Really?
Really?
I didn't know that.
Thank you, Governor Malloy.
Holy crap!
So they just want to release you, and we talk about, let's say the crime is up, gun violence, but the people in Hartford that are in the majority do not want to talk about. Let's talk about all the young kids that are stealing cars and actually enforcing things. And I've learned that crime committed with guns in hand are plead down. So 70% of them are not even prosecuted as a crime with a gun. So, you can't have it both ways. You can't go after the police, be soft on crime, and then try to throw money because the crime rate is up. It's
And that one guy's on $100,000 bond. They're going to let him right out.
It
depends how many times it's been done before and if there's other things. But if you're like a 14-year-old, I shouldn't be saying this, but a 14-year-old kid, you steal a car, you get a little slap, you're right back out.
Different. Yeah,
right.
One kid, one of the 18-year-olds, he was charged with criminal impersonation.
Yeah.
Who was he impersonating?
I don't know.
Was it you? Hi, I'm Mike from.
No, they wouldn't have put a bond on him. They would have just said, "Go get him."
Yeah.
And the other kid was a $25,000 bond.
Wow.
And he's the one that actually was in the stolen car.
Where was the car stolen from here? It was someplace else.
It was stolen from Sam's store right over here across from.
And then there was something going
St.
on.
Mary's.
Something going on at Target too, right?
Well, because they were chasing him that way. One was going towards Plainfield, and it was a mess. But they got them both. One got on 395 North.
Wow, it's scary.
And yeah.
We have the law that you're really not supposed to chase the cars once they're, I think, on the highway. And so some of these young kids that get into stolen vehicles, there is some rumor that it's part of a gang initiative that you have to go steal a car. I don't know if that's true. I've heard that from state police. They get on the highway. They're not allowed to chase them. There's a law. You cannot chase them. But as soon as they cross into the Rhode Island border, it's a different story. They will chase you down until you go off the road. So it's been eye-opening for some young folks who have done that or made that mistake of crossing into Rhode Island.
Well,
Cortland Kinney, I just want to put, it just says, congrats to the Griswold Senior Center. Special thanks to Senator Summers for her tireless work. Donna Langlois said, you're doing an awesome job representing us. Heather, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And to answer your other question, Victoria says one smashed into a cruiser. That's what got him.
Oh, really?
There
was a lot of front end damage to the car.
The problem with high-speed chases is the innocent people.
Absolutely. 100%. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Fortunately, there were no injuries in this one.
So they crashed into the cruiser themselves.
Well, what scares me is this is probably a town that has a lot of guns.
Right.
And what's going to happen if this starts occurring in this town? People are going to carry. And what's going to happen is
they already are. Paul.
Yeah.
I know, but one of those kids is going to pull something. Not only men, but women too. And shoot them.
Well, it doesn't help that we're part of the heroin highway.
Yeah.
Drugs run through this town like water down the river.
Women, because they pick on women, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and there's a lot of women in this town that probably do have guns. So.
Well, and they say that women, the increase in women getting their pistol permit is up, way up. Also, women purchasing, and part of that, I do believe, in talking to many women, is and I'm somebody, I have my own pistol, I have a pistol permit and etc. But people are doing it because they're feeling that, especially in the rural areas, that they know they're down in state police and they want to protect themselves. That's what they're concerned about. Yeah. So, but you're right. That's unfortunate. The person picks the wrong situation and we could have a tragic situation on our hands.
I advocate very strongly for women to carry that feel comfortable with it, but also to get good training.
I have to agree with you. I grew up, my father always had guns. It was not something that I actually really partook in. We used to shoot at cans because we're hillbillies in the backyard and stuff, and it was fun. But as I got older, I purposely took the class. I got my permit because I wanted to really know how to handle and clean and have the respect of a firearm. And I think that is invaluable training. I really do. Because you're not going to pick up that gun, carelessly. That you're pointing it down at all times, that it shouldn't be loaded. All those things that many people probably don't have that respect because they haven't gone through that training.
Well, to speak to that, I was over talking to the folks in a new store in town called Swamp Yankee.
That is me. Swamp Yankee. As I was taking care of my goose this morning.
They're right next to the Pizza Palace, and I went in there and I was talking to the manager, who is a lady from Brooklyn, and we talked, and she said, "No, we're going to teach you how to take the gun apart, how to respect the gun, how to put it back together again. This is how we do things here." Exactly.
Yep. I think that's really
proper
amazing
ownership.
Training.
So.
And it was interesting. So
she said, we're not just here to sell guns to put them out to society. We want to make sure.
Oh, is it a gun store?
Yes.
Okay. I love the name Swamp Yankee. I thought
Swamp
of that
Yankee.
When you look at my yard where there's the minivan that caught on fire, like right in the front, that I have to get moved, and all this stuff,
You get the blade inspector on you.
Oh my God.
That's where the goose
you know what?
lives.
I had to travel for work like a week ago, and I got the call from my daughter who's staying at my house going, Mom, I have this beloved, like 20-year-old minivan. It's been painted. It's taken kids to college. It's taken dogs to, I mean, it's horrible, but I love it. You know, I always pet it, and it somehow caught fire. Somebody went to turn it on, and I think probably mice were in it.
Oh,
and so she sends me the pictures of like 14 fire trucks at the house. So now the thing, and I had some lumber delivered, and the guy hit the back of it. So now it's like burnt out, and like the back tail lights hanging out, and I have to figure out how to get it towed because it won't go anywhere. But it just,
you're gonna repair it?
no, it's beyond. I would, but you know, it can't be repaired. So.
It sounds like it's part of your family.
It is. We had to have like that was like the best $1,000 I ever spent.
She's gonna have a picture of it on her wall in memoriam.
You saw the white car that I have, right?
Yeah.
It's a 94.
Same thing.
Yeah, I think this was like a 99, and I bought it from an old babysitter whose husband worked on cars, and it was like top of the line then. Somebody had put it in reverse on the highway. So he put a new engine in it, and he sold it to me lasted for 20 years. It was like the best thing ever. You know, you could take the seats out. I could put my hay in there, my ducks and my geese, and drive around. So it was better than a pickup because it was covered.
So says the senator.
Yeah, a real family.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So what else is happening? I mean, we thank you very much for all your due diligence and all your hard work, you know, for Griswold, not just
Let's hope another car didn't catch on fire.
this, you know, I mean, everything that you've done for Griswold, you know, in your tenure, I mean, it's appreciated. I mean,
thank you.
People are out there talking about it right now.
So I have decided I'm going to run again for Senate.
What?
Yes. I made my announcement, I guess, earlier this week. And I am having my kickoff party. Everybody's welcome. It's a kickoff / fundraiser because we have to raise about $20,000 and get 300 in-district signatures to be able to run. And donations are anywhere from $5 to the maximum is $290. You can't be a state contractor. You can't be a lobbyist. And we're having it this Sunday from 4 to 6 at a farm in North Stonington. I'm sorry, in Stonington, not North Stonington. It's 1189 Pequot Trail, and it's the Dean's Mill Farm. It's an old farm that somebody has just redone. It's open to the public normally. It's beautiful. It has walking trails. The house is now a B&B. It's a great, beautiful facility for like weddings and things like that. It's just beautiful, and the owner has offered us to have it there because there's lots of parking to spread out. So if you're bored on Sunday, I think it's supposed to rain, please join us. It should be fun. We have a lot of excitement, so I'm excited to run again.
Do we know who's running against you?
I have one opponent from Stonington. I'm not sure if there will be others. He is on the Board of Education. His name is Farouk Rahab, and he is a Democrat from Stonington.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
So not the return of Bob Stachin once again.
Not that I know of yet.
Okay, because he's run twice against you. Yeah,
he has.
I have a question.
Yeah,
your fundraiser.
Yes.
Will the goose be there?
You know, I thought about it, Mama Goose.
Bring the goose.
Bring the goose.
Yeah.
So she is. Nobody wants to hear about my geese, but I have these lovely geese that protect my chickens. And the boy goose wasn't that smart. And so he's no longer with us. And it's just the girl. And she's really sad and lonely. So she's getting a couple babies in a couple weeks. It's really sad. She literally will follow me in the house. Wah, 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 wah. She's beautiful. She's about 50 pounds. It's called Toulouse goose. And they're known to be domesticated, and they're very friendly. I mean, she literally will like snuggle up. But
really,
if anything comes in the yard, she puts her wings out, and you hear that awful goose squawk, and she protects the chickens. It's amazing. Keeps the flock away. She keeps, the hawks away. They won't go near her because she's too big. But I do have a problem because I have a lab that wants to eat her. So it's constantly, it's like Animal Farm. I got to keep this dog over here, this dog. So anyway, I'd love to bring her.
Okay,
she's awesome.
Get the flock out of here.
Right.
Isn't a boy goose a gander?
Sorry, I know I can't fit her in my right. So yeah, it's awesome. It's like Animal Farm, but I adopted this one. I have a big lab, and then I adopted this other lab, this little tiny black lab. His name's Schooner. He is just impossible. He fights with raccoons and loses all the time, so he's constantly like in the vet and then in quarantine because if you get in a fight with a raccoon, regardless of your vaccinated, which he is, they give you another one and you got to quarantine. He doesn't seem to learn.
Same thing happened to Paul.
Really?
Yeah, he
with your
lost a
dog?
fight to a raccoon.
I did.
He did.
He doesn't even remember. He doesn't even remember.
That's part of the bite from the raccoon.
I think so. Yeah.
That's why he was in quarantine.
After going to the vet and the stitches and the drain, because everything gets infected. After all that, and you can imagine how much money every time I go to the vet, I have to take out a loan. And
Sell a lung.
then I see him sitting looking at a swan. I'm like, don't even think about it, dude. Come on, stop. Just.
I can take it.
All my neighbors think it's hilarious because he's like, I think I can do it. I'm like, oh my God.
Dude, you just back off. I got it.
Right.
Watched Rocky.
God. So
you're running again, which
Yes.
is awesome. That's great news. And you know of one candidate right now that is
Yes.
running against you, who's a
Mhm.
Democrat from Stonington, you said.
mhm.
Okay. And he's on the Board of Education there.
Yes.
Um,
And I'm sure it'll, it's a difficult district because you have
it's
the
weirdly shaped.
shoreline
Yeah.
that is tends to be more heavily Democrat and probably much more supportive of
Right.
like super liberal ideas like we have in Hartford. And then you have your moderates and independents, and then you come up north and it changes. So you have
Right.
Democrats up north that vote Republican because they feel that their party has left them, because down south you have the left that has really gone left, like AOC left.
Yeah, that's
So-
left.
Court has a question or a statement for you, Chris.
Bring it, Court. Bring
It
it.
says, Chris, you can't say goose or gander. You can only cry foul.
Ooh.
Oh, I was going to say, is it a transgander?
Transgander.
She said a boy goose, so
Yeah.
it's transgander.
Could be a trans.
He was
goose.
pretty, but he wasn't so smart.
Isn't a boy goose called a gander?
Yes.
Okay, just
Not to
check.
change the subject.
Just clarify.
Do we know what's going on? Is Brian Lenu running again? We haven't heard from him.
I believe he is.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. His district has changed a little bit.
How's
So
We
you know-
really have heard nothing from him.
right. So we, the every 10 years they do, I call it a revaluation. It's not
Realign or-
redistricting. And really what happens is the people that are in power try to redistrict, so they have an advantage, which kind of happened. So his district has changed a little bit. I think he's lost Plainfield and he's picked up Preston and Ledyard, I think, are part of Ledyard. So, things have shifted. And then he used to represent Sterling, and now Ann Dauphiné represents Sterling.
Got it.
So I don't, there's been some shifts.
And she has all of Plainfield now instead of just part of it, like
I think so. And then
the other side of the
Sterling.
fire district.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It is
when
weird.
They switch, they split the districts. But in Groton, for example, or my district, the state rep who is not running, Joe Dela Cruz, he used to have like the lower part of Groton and part of New London, which is also strange.
It's weird.
And they changed that. So New London is now with a Groton Democrat rep. So she'll be in office forever. And then they have
What about Greg? I mean, is
Greg's district has shifted too, and he's safe forever because he has really red districts now. The way that they have, he only has Pawcatuck part of Stonington.
and a little bit of Westerly, I hear.
Yeah, probably. And then, so the rep in Groton,
no
or the new
Westerly,
rep
no.
seat is, if you imagine below 95, it has Groton and Stonington in it, but not Pawcatuck. So it's
bit
just
weird.
really strange the way they carve it out by population. So we have a new candidate running in the Groton area. His name is Robert Boris. He's great. And he's energized. He's an entrepreneur. He owns Command Systems, which does all this high-tech security for like electric boats, Sikorsky, blah, blah, blah. He's an anchor they have a nice building. He's running because he really wants to make a difference. He lived in California for years, grew up here, lived in California, came back and said, we have to stop doing what California did because I see what happened. And I think he'd be a great new member of the legislature. He's running against Andre Baumgartner, who ran as a Republican, then became a Democrat, and now is running as a Democrat to try to get his old rep seat back. So
Mike Broughton says that part of Plainfield went to District 47.
So who is that? Is that Doug Dubitsky?
That's
that might be
Dubitsky, Lisbon,
right.
Canterbury.
Yeah, I'm not really great on the rep seats because they all have been carved up and spit out in a different way. So Mike,
It's
would know
weird.
better.
I don't know why. Because like Plainfield's got what 2 fire districts, right?
Yeah.
So is it like one rep gets one and the other gets? Is that how they splitting it up? Or?
Well, I think
don't
part
get
of it,
Coin flip.
honestly, is
Could
if
be.
you look at it, I think the way the majority
Dubitsky,
party, they wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to have a Democratic representative in each district, in each town. So if you split the town up, you have an opportunity to get it on one side or the other. That's the way I look at it. It seems like why would you take just Pawcatuck out of Stonington?
Because a lot of this redistricting is all about carving it up so somebody becomes secure. That's why we get these crazy lines cutting towns in half and everything else.
Right. I think the Senate districts they left alone, and a lot of it had to do with like population. If your population had decreased.
So you didn't get redistricted or anything like that.
My population pretty much has stayed the same. And same for, I think, Kathy Austin. I down in Fairfield, they changed the districts, the Senate districts. I couldn't tell you how they're all carved up, but there's a group of people that go in and they change the districts, and then there was some pushback, so they had to have an arbitrator look at, how the districts were carved up, but they sided with how it was originally. So,
Paul, do you have anything? You've been kind of.
I'm just listening.
Jim.
Yeah, I got a couple of suggestions for.
Sure, I'll take suggestions.
So why don't you flip with Paul here so we can hear you in the microphone?
There's been a few things that have
A little more.
troubled me for quite some time. One is the unfunded mandates that the state issues for us, and I'm not going to go into great detail, but there was a study done on at the Bristol Public Schools, and it was compiled by.
Are you talking about just for schools or for just in general?
No, in general.
Okay.
But it's largely affects the schools.
Absolutely.
And the total cost for those mandates was almost $15 million. Okay.
Yep.
So that's one thing. A second thing is the tax. Connecticut depends very heavily on the real estate tax. And of course, that hurts towns like Griswold. It doesn't have a lot of commercial development. I mean, I had properties just reassessed and went up 71%. A thought that I've had on that, and that is that the state increases the sales tax by a certain amount of money, but that sales tax increase has to go right back to the town people to reduce their taxes. They can't pour it into the general fund or use it for other purposes.
Well, can I speak to that for a minute?
Yes.
There's actually proposals to lower the sales tax because it is one of the most regressive taxes that we have. It affects everybody.
Yep.
But we have offered in the past, it has been rejected, to allow financially sound towns like Griswold to be able or have the authority to levy their own tax. Let's say if they wanted, I'm just making this up, if you all decided you wanted to put a extra 0.01% on a cup of coffee over $5 or something, you would be able to do that, and that money would come back to you. And we have thought about that in certain towns. If it's like I'm just using coffee tax because that comes up often. If you can afford to spend whatever $3.50 on a large coffee, 10 cents could be added, and that would go back to your town if the town chooses to do that. And they do that in other states, and it's amazing the revenue stream that comes directly to the town. And so that has been an option to kind of give you the flexibility. And the town would be the one in the driver's seat deciding what they wanted to add, an extra fee or tax to, rather than the state saying everybody has to pay an increase sales tax. So, but I do hear what you're saying. The towns need a way to try to generate revenue without it being completely put on the property tax owner. And every year we try to do property tax reform. Now you're going to hear from the governor this year that he lowered the property tax, But really what he's doing is, when you fill out your income tax, there's a deduction you can take against your property tax. It used to be, I think, $500. Then they lowered it, and then it was $250. I think he's bringing that up a little bit to $250 or bringing it back, but that's nothing compared to like but when you add it up, he can say, oh, I saved $53 million in property tax. Really, that does nothing for the homeowner or the commercial person who owns the property.
Yeah,
And
when you divide that by the number of citizens, what's it
Right.
amount to? Couple of dollars per
right.
person.
And if you earn over a certain amount, I don't know what the amount is, you can't even take it anyway. So, when you hear that, just keep it in perspective.
Yeah. And
There's a huge property tax issue, and we have to do something. It's driving people out of Connecticut. I see it, especially on the shoreline. It's actually changing who Connecticut is, because what you have is people like my parents. They live in a little cape. It's not on the water, but their property taxes are so outrageous. They can't afford to stay there. Okay. So, and you have somebody from New York who can come in and just pay cash for the house. And so you're losing all your people that have made your town the way it is. And you lose sort of that cohesiveness of your town. And all of a sudden you wake up and your town is filled with strangers that now demand things that you want in New York, which drives the prices up. Right. So it's really terrible. I grew up in Knowing Village, and everybody, worked at a B. Nobody's house was fixed up. It was like, there was like one house that was fixed up, but it was a great place to grow up. You charged your groceries at the little Universal store. If you did something wrong, somebody was always ratting you out. Your mother knew about it, but now it's filled. There's still a few of the old timers, but it's filled with a lot of people that are there on the weekends only. So the whole atmosphere has changed. It's become sort of this like elitist
go ahead,
place.
Well, no, I just want to make a comment, and really this is just into another question. And Victoria says, and her first statement is, since it's election year, isn't Governor Lamont proposing a vehicle mill rate tax cap as well?
They propose that every year. Yes. So that sounds great. I don't know what your mill rate is here. Do you know what
$1 million? I don't even know anymore.
Mill rate now is around 28.5, okay. I think.
I think the cap was at 29. And what happens though is if you're somebody like New Haven, I think their mill rate is like 77, something outrageous, right? It's crazy. So if their cars are capped at 29, the state makes up the difference. Okay. Right. So, and then a town like Groton, if the mill rate is 30 and the cap is 29 or 32 or whatever it is, that difference for them is about $6 million. Where do they make that up?
And how many places?
The property tax owner. That's the only place they have. So it's just sort of shifting the burden from one place to another, because they have no other way to raise taxes except against the property tax owner. So, there's a lot of discussion on that. Yes, it is unfair on some level. If you have a Toyota Corolla in Griswold and you have to pay, I'm making this up, $500 in tax, but you have a Toyota Corolla in New Haven and it's $1,500, that doesn't seem fair. But you have to figure out a way that the towns can make up that difference, because try to cut $6 million from your budget. Where would you cut? Yeah. Right? It's going to
Griswold? You're not going to cut 6 million.
And Mike, the number you quoted, 31, that's probably true for the borough, because there's an extra about 2.5
right
in the borough. So it just depends on where you're living and what you're
exactly.
looking at.
Right. So now this year, there's all this money coming in from the federal government. So I know all the towns have gotten ARPA money and money for COVID. And I just caution people, I do this at the state too. We have all this money coming in, and everyone who wants to create these new programs, which are all these wonderful things that you'd love to have. Mm-hmm. But we have to think about it long term, because we're not going to have this money in the next couple of years, and we're going to actually have a cliff that we're going to have to go off. Yep. So what do you do when you start these programs? Connecticut loves to have all these programs, and they never cut anything, right? They never revalue to see if the program's working. They just add a new one. So I think we all have to keep that in perspective.
Yeah, I talk about that because of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
you fund these programs. What are you going to do when the money stops? You're going to increase the tax rate again?
Right.
But going back to the taxes, I agree with you that the sales tax is regressive, but also the property tax is regressive.
I agree with that. It's
okay.
taxing on unrealized gains.
Yep.
I do.
Now, is this something that's smoke and mirrors? The whole gas tax being rolled back starting today.
Yes. So
it's like 28 cents. So like I bought gas this morning because I had to go to Boston earlier this morning.
Did you buy it today?
I bought it this morning. It was $3.89.
Okay. So gas tax is super complicated, but we had proposed that they decrease what we call, there's a gross receipts tax that you pay on the gross receipts, or the wholesaler pays on the gross receipts of the gas. And then there's an excise tax. So we had proposed that we reduced the wholesale and also the excise. So it would have been about a 40 to 50 cent reduction.
Right.
Governor Lamont decided to do the excise tax, the 25 cents at the pump.
Right.
So there's been some conversations about, well, now the guy who bought the gas, right, he's taking a hit because he bought it and he had to pay this, and now he's giving the 25% reduction, but they will make it up on their next tank of gas when they purchase that. But we have the highest gas tax, I believe, in the country.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do? Because if you lower the tax, this special transportation fund is going to be impacted because the gas tax is supposed to go in there. The special transportation fund is flush with cash because gas prices have been so high.
Okay.
So it is, and this is temporary through June. So I actually I posted it the other day. There was an article written by a economist talking about inflation, and it was from a European newspaper, and they cited Connecticut, and they had a picture of the gas tax, of the gas prices in Connecticut, and talking about how they believe that the average family, the inflation will cost another like $4,300 a year for them in the next coming year, which we're going to have significant issues for our families, because many of our families are barely making it. Between the gas at price and they
Gas
have
has
to
been
travel.
great. It's hurt me.
Yeah. Or how about like filling up your fuel tank in your house now, and electricity, all this stuff. They talked specifically about gas and electricity. The cost of energy in Connecticut is out of control. It is so expensive.
Now you just mentioned the fuel costs. I mean, somebody said they paid $4.39 a gallon the other day. Okay, for fuel oil.
For filling
that
up
was
their...
that was $1,000 bill for somebody that's got low income.
Right.
Okay. Is any of this tax reduction on fuel applied to the fuel oil for your homes?
We're looking at that. We also it's not as much of a priority right now for some because we're coming into a warm season. Okay. So it's not like the dead of winter where but we are looking at, there are availability of funds for fuel assistance. So they're looking at expanding that because they know people are going to need assistance. There's no way that people can afford that, a car payment, groceries are more expensive, a mortgage payment, putting shoes on your kids. We're being squeezed on all sides. So, that is absolutely something that many of us feel we should look at how we're spending the money coming in from the federal government and make sure that it's spent wisely. The government does put certain restrictions on things that you can't use it to just say, okay, guess what? Griswold has no tax this year because we're going to use it all for that. But there are things that we can do to be smart about reevaluating programs, reallocating to make sure we're spending the money wisely. Things that you would do in your own household that we just don't do.
Victoria says Eversource charges more for delivery than the electricity.
They do. They absolutely do. And
I think that sucks.
Eversource is very strong lobby, very monopolistic. Every time there's a rate increase, it's supposed to go to an independent commission called Pura.
Oh, Pura, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But Pura is part of DEEP or cognizant under DEP. We want to pull it out and have it separate. And I can't remember the last time Pura did not approve a rate increase.
Wonderful. Which doesn't affect like municipalities like
no, you guys are actually
lower.
lucky because you have your own municipal electric cooperative, and that makes
Like Wallingford.
there's 7 of them. Yep.
Yeah. Groton, Norwich.
Basra,
Basra,
Norwalk, Basra, the second taxing district, and Wallingford. And those are also, because of that, you are the areas that data centers are very interested in coming to.
Right. Because they can kind of cut deals and stuff. They can't do it with things that are regulated by Pura.
Right. And what happens is, and it's really, energy is purposely complicated to make it confusing. But if a data center came to Griswold, they would be able to negotiate with Jewett. Is it Jewett City?
Jewett City
Power,
DPU,
right?
yeah.
A long-term, let's say a 30-year purchase power agreement. And because of the way that they use power, they pull off the grid at high peak. And what that does is it gives Jewett City Electric the ability to negotiate so that when you're at peak demand, because they've negotiated for a larger amount of power, it reduces all of the people in Griswold's energy cost because you can get a better deal. And that it's complicated, but people that have data centers in their system, especially in a municipal electric cooperative, they actually see a decrease in their electric bill because you're buying more and it's consistent and you get it at a lower rate.
So now that's what I want to know. That was my last question for you today. What is there an update on data centers? Specifically Griswold.
I am not the developer, but I talk to the different developers, and I know that they are trying to lock down some purchasing of land here. And I think as soon as that happens, then
the balls start to go.
Then they have to work with the town. The way it works is they have to have a memorandum of understanding with the town. The town has to say, yes, we want you to come here, and sign something saying.
Don't they already have that?
I don't know if they do or if they don't. If they do, then you're good. If they don't, once they have that, then they can move forward. They need to have that before they can get the state deal. And if they can't get the state deal, we wanted to make sure that the towns were made whole. So that's why we said you have to have your agreement with the town before you can get the state deal, because we didn't want anybody coming in and trying to overpower towns. Once you have that, then you can move forward, and you still have to go through all the permitting, all the DEEP, all the EPA, all those things still have to be done. There's no free pass, but they want to make sure that the towns are made whole.
Got it. Anything else, Jim? Because it's 9 o'clock and time to rock and roll, baby.
Oh, okay. There's a number of things affecting rental properties that are always being talked about.
For you talking about for landlords?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's all negative for the landlords.
It is terrible.
I mean, many of us are just small landlords, and went almost a year without receiving any income.
Absolutely.
On one property, and another property it was about 8-9 months.
You can't do it, right? We have
what is the issue? I understand your personal plight, but what is the issue with this?
So the issue is that during COVID, we had, the government actually across the nation had something in place where they were helping renters stay in their home. So you couldn't evict somebody for not paying.
They couldn't go anywhere.
And people were getting money, but they weren't paying their landlord. So now the landlords are out. Many of them have had to file bankruptcy. We have a system in the state of Connecticut where you can recoup it, but you have to have the renter sign an agreement with the landlord and able to apply for it, which is a problem because some of the renters that haven't paid are just like, I'm not signing it. I'm out of here.
Nothing,
So we're trying to work on legislation to help you because the landlords have taken the brunt of it. And, if you look throughout the country on all these homes that have defaulted, there's places like these huge hedge funds like BlackRock. They're just buying up towns. So, we all might be renting from a hedge fund at some point in time if we're not paying attention to this. So we are trying to work through that. We understand what's going on, and the banks are not giving the landlord any free pass. They're still wanting their, if you have a mortgage payment, they're still wanting that. And, their electricity bills are not saying, okay, I'm sorry, it's COVID, you don't have to pay. So we are trying to work through that. And I can tell you that is a priority in our caucus.
The last point on that is that they want to change the background checks also and limit criminal background checks and stuff like that to 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what good does that do for the landlord? I mean, since I've been doing really more serious background checks, I've had a lot less problems.
Right. that is something else that will be amended, I'm sure. There's a
Okay.
lot of things that you see bills that people that want them, but they never get out. And I will also just let people know, I don't know how many people are like legislative nerds that they're following all this stuff, but for example, this is a really short session. We have, and this session is supposed to be just budget items. That's it. But of course, the people in control don't follow the rules. So
Right.
it's everything. Normally in public health, we might have 10 bills in a short session. We have 65 bills.
Wow.
So you all these bills getting pushed out, but then we have the same smaller time crunch to get bills out the door. So even though these things come out of committee, they still have to get called. They have to pass both houses. So the process is going to really slow down, right? So when there's things that are really egregious, you amend them, you talk about them. And if you start talking about them for too long, because there's such a limited time, they put it to the side and they move on. So we're hoping that's a good way to stop a lot of the bad things, is just to talk on them, to amend them, to, talk about why this is not a good policy, and then try to get the things that we can all agree on across the finish line. It's a really short time frame.
So lots of comments, few questions, but here's a question that just came through.
Okay.
From Donna. He just wrote 3 words: tax on pensions? ?
There is, well, for the past, so when we were 1818, which is 2016, right? We established a law that we were going to slowly phase out the tax on pensions, because at that time we couldn't do it all at once. So it was like 1/5 a year over 5 years.
5 years.
Now that we have all this money coming in, the governor has proposed no tax on pensions, and there's an income limit. It's if you are a couple, $150,000. If you're single, $75,000. So if you meet those thresholds, you will not be taxed on your pension income. I think that should also apply to your 401k, because you're forced to take money out. And that would be something that would really help our seniors, especially with all the increase in costs that are on a fixed income. And I think that's something my caucus has been putting in for years. So we support that. It just depends if that's going to be lumped in with all this other bad stuff. But in that case, we will try to pull it out and run it separately.
Does the governor have a line item veto?
No.
Is that something that should be implemented? They took it away from the U.S. president years ago also, because that would help to control some of these things that they just add to budgets because they know the budget has to pass.
Right. That's the hardest part. Like with the budget, there may be some great things you get in there for your town, but then there's these awful things that you can't support. So you really have to make that call. Yep. And that's where we are. So yes, I'm hoping. Connecticut is one of the I think there's 4 other states. I call it taxing your nest egg, and it's wrong.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm happy to come back and talk about more
the senior center and
more of the
running
things
again.
Yeah. I'd love to do a time. Maybe it's not during your show, but some other time we could do like a question and answer, so we can get the information out
anytime
on your
would
podcast.
Like. Anytime you would like.
Because I think a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I heard you on the show, but I wanted to ask this," and
sure,
we end up talking about other things. So. And if you're up for that, that would be great sometime.
I'm always up for that. I think that would be awesome.
It could be like Hollywood Squares. There's a good fundraiser for you.
Jim, will you be center square?
If you want.
All right.
I'll be right of center. We'll have to put somebody left of center.
That'd be Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, I am very neutral. I've been an independent for decades.
Right. And I have a very independent voting record, because I can see there are some initiatives that I really agree with. I think they're smart and they make sense. To me, it doesn't matter who puts it in. It matters what works for the district and what's best for, the citizens of Connecticut. But some of them are crazy on both sides. So you have to just you can't just support something because your party does. That's the way I say,
You can, David, Jim says you always look very happy.
I do?
Well, I think that was the idea. See, you got him
He's smiling now.
You got him to smile, David.
Yeah. I'm sorry, David. I'm just serious much of the time.
Yeah, David, he's actually a real cool dude. He's just he's in the zone right now. He's in the zone.
Yeah, I've been up since 4:30 too.
I got you beat today, bro.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, you said you went to Boston.
They got to Boston back.
That's a long drive back and forth. I'm up early.
It is.
I'm probably up then because I don't sleep well at all. But to actually be functioning and driving is something different.
Dave says he's just teasing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I know.
But he's. I wish I had that more wholesome smile that some people have.
Instead of like resting bitch face.
Well, like
I don't think you have that.
Like,
Do you really?
Like, that all the time.
Heather, she's very smiley, and
That's not what they say in the legislature.
well, that's because you're trying to do something serious.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
And I have a horrible habit. I roll my eyes. It's so bad.
Oh, I do too.
And when I was the mayor, my mom would like text me and said, "You did it again," because I'd be like, "Oh my God, that's so stupid."
If we want to do a round table or something like that, you could like if you want to invite a guest as well, another
That'd be
district.
great.
I think
That'd
that
be
would
great.
be freaking awesome.
That
we
would
could
be
do that,
awesome.
so.
And then allow citizens. I don't know what the limitations are. If you allow them to come in and ask questions, or they can ask us anything.
Here? We can do it live. We can do it
Whatever works for
virtual.
you. That would be great.
Either way, like you could just be at home in your study or something.
It's more
whatever.
fun to come here.
We could do that too.
I need to get out of the house.
I like the personal interface.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do too.
All right, Heather. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thanks so much. It was great to be here.
It's always
great
good to see you.
tattoo.
All right. Thank
we'll
you.
see you
Oh, thank
later.
you. Yeah, you
I
like
love
that,
it.
huh?
Yeah. Show everybody. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't think see it. There we go. Where am I? I don't even know.
They should put that on a sweatshirt or like a logo. Wouldn't
I
that be
do.
good?
That's a perfect segue, Heather. And
Here?
I'm glad you said that.
Put what on the
I keep
sweatshirt?
telling people that, like at the aquarium, I'm like, if you did something with like a little logo and on the back it said like rescue staff, everybody would want to buy that.
See, right now you can see this is what I mean was a great segue is that there is a t-shirt shop up on snsnonline.com. And if
Wait, there's a t-shirt shop online for you?
on snsnonline.com, yeah, we have
that.
Yep. So if you'd like to support SNSN Online, to be able to do more interviews, Heather costs like $5,000 to bring her up here. So just so you know. Not really. But mention your fundraiser one more time.
Oh, sure. If you're around this Sunday, I am doing my kickoff for my reelection. It is at 1189 Pequot Trail in Stonington at Dean's Mill Farm. All are welcome. It's also a fundraiser because unfortunately we have to raise money to run for office. Any donation from $5, the maximum anyone can give is $290, would be welcome. And it should be a great event. I think we're going to have a good turnout. I think, we might have some surprise guests. So we'd love to have you.
Excellent. I'm just trying to also show the shirts and stuff that are available on snsnonline.com. And we hope that you support us and support Heather Summers.
So
and
are
can they
these
do it
all-
online as well?
You
Can you donate online?
Yes, it's of course I don't have it with me, but I can send it to you. There's an
Do
Anna
that,
dot.
yeah.
And it's easy, it has a little box, $5. And I will tell you, one of the hardest things about running for office is I need to get 300 signatures or 300 at least $5 donations from people in the district.
Yep.
And it's just a slog. It takes a lot. You don't think you think 300 people, but then that's what you end up saying. Oh my God, I got to find 5 more people to sign
and
this.
trying to catch them when you happen
because you're not thinking about it. And so that's what happens. Anodot's really easy. You can go online and we don't share your information. We don't put you on some kind of list or anything. So don't worry. Anyway,
Very
I want
good.
to check out these sweatshirts.
Oh, there's a whole bunch. I just put a new one up.
I had
last
a
night.
long sleeve t-shirt that said like the Griswold Wolverines with like the paw print.
Yep.
And my husband stole it from me. Like he loves it.
Oh, we have them now.
It's
that
like a
we
lightweight
do,
one.
where we have a hoodie and it's
Hoodies.
embroidered.
Oh, that's nice.
So we have that hasn't been put up yet.
Mhm.
But what has been put up, which I really like it, and I got to find it here. Well, here it is, right here. It's a hoodie, and basically it there's nothing on the front of it, but there's something on the back of it, and all it says.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's on the back. It says, "Dear person behind me, you look great today. Love the person in front of you."
That's awesome.
So I just think it's a positive message and stuff like that. So that's also on snsnonline.com.
So I didn't know that. You have to promote that. So speaking of that, listen to that. I know we're over time here,
That's right.
but I had this. I went on a tour of a school in Groton, and there was a math teacher who had this written on their door, and I loved it because they're trying to get kids interested in math.
Yeah.
And they had painted it. It says, "Math may not teach us how to add love or subtract hate, but it gives us every reason to hope that every problem has a solution.
Very nice.
I liked that. I thought
Yeah.
that was great.
Good
Can you
saying.
screenshot that and send
I
it to
can
me?
send that to you.
Yeah.
I just need your.
That'd be great on a shirt.
Wouldn't
Well,
that
here,
be
let me
great?
just take a picture of it.
There you go.
I'll just take a picture of it.
I wish I was better. There you go. That's a good saying, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Got it.
And I thought it was awesome because it was painted right on their door.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, Heather, thank you very
All
much.
right, thanks
Jim,
so
thanks for
much.
dropping by.
Yep.
All right, and we will see you tomorrow. We will be doing game number 1 of Griswold High School's baseball season. It starts. We will be broadcasting, streaming live from Dodd Stadium in Norwich, as the Griswold Wolverines will take on the team from Wheeler. Game number 1 of the season. They had a scrimmage yesterday, which they beat Alice Tech 12-5. So they are looking good.
Good.
So we'll see
Baseball
what
was my
happens.
game.
It's your game?
I loved baseball. I'd played baseball before I'd eat.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I love baseball. And the Wolverines, they're gonna have one heck of a year.
Good.
So all right. So thank you very much again, Heather. We'll see you real soon
Yes, that's
again.
great.
And we'll do something
Yeah, let's do that.
do like a talk show, kind of like roundtable.
Maybe you can have people
Be
send
great.
questions in.
There you go.
You could do that too.
And we can try to
Gather
get through
them
a-
in advance.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.
Life is full of choices. At Jewett City Savings Bank, we can make one choice easy, finding the right checking account. We offer a range of affordable accounts to fit your budget and needs, and each gives you the freedom to access your money the way you want, online, through our mobile app, or with your debit card. It's your money and your choice. To learn more about the account that's right for you, stop by one of our offices or visit us at jcsbank.com. Jewett City Savings Bank, member FDIC.
We love the 80s.
Your internet home for big 80s hair and big 80s hits.
When you hear the call, you